Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Elite Speak. And I have your AEW Dynamite review for December 9th, 2020. And this was the follow-up to last week's huge episode, which featured the debut of Sting. Well, Sting was there again tonight, and he spoke in AEW for the first time. And it was good stuff, but we'll get into that in a bit. And we're going to kick off the review with the first match of the night, which was a hot opener. It featured the Young Bucks, the AEW World Tag Team Champions, versus the Hybrid 2, TH2, Jack Evans, and Angelico. TH2 wastes no time in getting into the action. They beat down the Bucks during their entrance. On the outside, TH2 attempts to get the upper hand, but the Bucks reverse. TH2 later gets a 2 count from an assisted 450. Then the Bucks follow this up with tandem offense, which Nick does most of the work for a 2 count. Later, Matt Jackson throws Evans into the Acclaimed, whom were in the crowd on the outside of the ring. The Acclaimed are lined up for the next spotlight with the Bucks, so this should be interesting. The Bucks then hit their risky business double team move for a 2 count. Later, TH2 hits the Navarro Death Row. This was Angelico to Matt Jackson and has a chance to make him tap, but eventually Nick Jackson sentons Angelico to break up the submission hold. The Bucks eventually finish the match with a BTE trigger to Angelico for the win. TH2 does not advance or does not get a title shot from the Bucks as a result. Post-match, the Acclaimed tried to get some revenge on the Bucks. They were stalking them a bit, but instead the SCU comes out and cuts off the Acclaimed from attacking the Bucks. So that sets up a match for next week between the Acclaimed and SCU. Next segment, we had MJF cutting a promo on Orange Cassidy. He says he's going to hurt Orange Cassidy and retain his ring. And he had intensity while doing this promo. Immediately following this, we had the Sting segment. He speaks for the first time here. Sting is welcomed back with open arms. First off, he made his entrance. It was a grand entrance. He pretty much came out with the snow as well, like he did when he debuted the previous week. Good stuff. They're treating Sting with the utmost care, unlike his former employers. He is welcomed back with open arms by Arn Anderson, Cody Rhodes, and Tony Schiavone. When the segment was all said and done, we were left with more questions than answers. Sting plans to get well acclimated to AEW and its fans. This opens the door for possible involvement with Darby Allin. He singled him out. Cody Rhodes. And those are the two I mainly see Sting doing stuff with to start off in AEW. So they weren't going to just tell us everything here. They're leaving some intrigue, which they are going to milk until Sting is ready to reveal his hand. So, solid segment. Sting seemed very happy to be in AEW. After this, we had Team Taz segment. They belittled Cody a bit for bringing in Sting, etc. Then we followed that up with the Varsity Blondes versus FTR. The Varsity Blondes consist of Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. They've been seen on multiple occasions on Dark. The match kicks off with Cash taking down Pillman Jr. as he gets isolated. Pillman comes back a bit and tags in Griff, who tags back in Pillman as they get tandem offense in for a 1 count. Pillman gets worked over as we went to break. Back from break, Griff gets the hot tag and he runs wild, but FTR cuts it down not long after. They then hit the Goodnight Express on Pillman for the win. Following this up, we had an Adam Page segment. He was interviewed by, I believe, Alex Marvez. He said he has no tag team partners. What's he going to do? The Dark Order then steps up to the plate from behind the bar. And Reynolds says, who else is it going to be? So the Dark Order were offering their services to Page to be his partners for this match. And Page eventually agreed, and it's to be for one time only. He's not joining the Dark Order, he says. It's just for one time. And we follow this Dark Order segment up with a match from a Dark Order member, and it featured the Dark Order's 10, Preston Vance versus Dustin Rhodes. Dustin goes in on 10 to start the match. The fight spills outside, and 10 makes Dustin pay via a flapjack on the apron. But eventually Dustin finishes off 10 for the win. I didn't get to see what he used to pin him, but there's your match. Post-match, Evil Uno comes out and speaks of Dustin's legacy. The Dark Order, he tried to recruit Dustin, but instead Dustin slaps Uno in the face. We follow this up with Tony Schiavone and Brandy Rhodes segment with Shaq. Shaq makes an appearance on Dynamite here. Shaq says he was watching Jade and he cares about her. He didn't appreciate what Jade did to Brandy's arm. Brandy and Jade match gets made as a result of this, I believe, sometime down the line, since Brandy's arm is still in a sling. Shaq then says, as Brandy was walking off, that Brandy could get some pointers from Jade as her arm heals. And then Brandy took offense to this, and she grabbed a cup of water that was not far from Tony, and she threw it on Shaq and called him an overgrown asshole. And many memes were made from this moment of wet Shaq. It was hilarious. We don't know where this is all going, but besides Brandy and Jade eventually having a match down the line, but we shall see what happens. Does Shaq step into a ring, or does he just play an outside role? We shall see. We follow that up with the Inner Circle ultimatum. Jericho says all the bickering and such will not happen again. He gives everyone a chance to air their grievances. MJF speaks, and Sammy then cuts him off as he brings up the towel that MJF came to the ring with last week. Jericho then says he saw MJF with the towel. Ortiz then calms everyone down a bit. He tries to get Sammy to shake his hands. Guevara agrees to shake his hand, but nothing else better happened with MJF screwing everyone over. And it's all agreed upon. After that, Hager then calls out Wardlow and addresses the staring that they've always done at one another. Wardlow and Hager stares each other down each and every single time they get together. And this is evident. This has been happening for months. This has been happening for months. This has been happening for months. If you just pay attention to the pictures, the group photos that they all take, you would see Hager and Wardlow staring each other down in the background. It's hilarious stuff. Subtle storytelling, long-term storytelling. And that was hilarious. We followed that up with a match. Lance Archer and the Lucha Bros versus the Butcher and the Blade and Eddie Kingston. Before the bell, the Butcher takes out Pentagon. And as a result, it's only Lance Archer and Phoenix versus Butcher and Blade and Kingston. The heels get control. The Butcher and the Blade later win via the Blade. They were outnumbered, Archer and Phoenix. There was a lot going on in this match, so I could not take as many extensive notes as I would have liked. But it was a good match. It was a decent match. Post-match, Archer attempts to take down everybody, on the heel side at least. Kingston later runs away as Blade gets decimated a bit. Archer went for his blackout, but the Butcher comes up from behind and drags the Blade from Archer's arms, and that ends the threat. They hightail it on out of there, which leaves Archer fuming at the mouth. You can't wait to take these guys out. Then, next up, we had Abaddon's match. Abaddon versus Tesha Price. Tesha Price has been seen a lot on Dark. I believe and I hope they plan on bringing her in full time sooner or later. But Abaddon defeats Tesha via her Widow's Peak finisher. I forget what Abaddon calls it. I think she calls it Gravedigger. But it was a nice little squash. That's pretty much what the match was. But we know Tesha can wrestle. I repeat, Tesha can wrestle. Post-match, Sheeta comes out to lend a helping hand to Tesha, but Abaddon does not back down. Sheeta gets into the ring. She didn't back down. She uses her kendo stick and wallops Abaddon over the head with it, laying her flat out. She uses this time to lift Tesha up on her feet, get her out of the ring. But after this, Abaddon raises up from the dead like Undertaker. And we continue the feud. There's at least some storytelling brewing here, and that's going to make a lot of fans happy. And I enjoyed it. We followed this up with a Tony Schiavone interview segment. He interviewed Don Callis and Kenny Omega, whom arrived in a helicopter. Grand entrance. Tony says he's upset. Callis says the fans and Tony Khan are upset. He knows this. He also calls out Tony Khan here. He says, welcome to the wrestling business, kid. Omega says nepotism is a wonderful thing. He waited a year to bring his buddy in to the company, Don Callis. And there we have it. They pretty much repeated most of what they said on Impact on Tuesday, but I can understand why, because a lot of the AEW audience did not watch Impact, so it only made sense to repeat it here. So I get it. And then we follow all this up. We didn't really get anything from this announcement. They're leaving us on our toes again. They're trying to keep us invested, keep the intrigue up. So maybe something comes of this in the near future, maybe the next episode, who knows. And then we follow this all up with the main event, MJF versus Orange Cassidy for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. MJF rushed Orange Cassidy before he took his jacket off to start the match. He then hits 2 suplexes on Orange Cassidy for a 2 count. Orange Cassidy then countered the 3rd suplex with a stun dog millionaire. MJF then stuffs Orange Cassidy's hands in his pockets and then powerbombs him on the apron while on the outside. He then continues to wear Orange Cassidy's hands down so that his orange punch would be less effective. We go to break, and then we come back from break. Orange Cassidy gets his momentum back as he hits as he DDTs MJF from the top rope for a 2 count. But eventually, via shenanigans, MJF retains his Dynamite Diamond Ring, which I kind of saw coming. I didn't think Orange Cassidy was going to win this because the ring doesn't really suit Cassidy. It suits MJF. So MJF will hold on to it for another year, it seems. It goes with his character. The match pretty much turned into a lumberjack match halfway through. You had the heel side and you had the face side. And there you have it. It was a decent main event match. The wrestling was nice. The action was nice. There was some action in there. Keep you on the edge of your seat and stuff. But there you have it. That was the AEW Dynamite episode review for November 9th, 2020. And we will look up the ratings right now to see how that's going. It looks like Dynamite got 995,000 viewers. NXT got only 659,000 viewers. Not bad. But there's your ratings report as well. Thanks for watching / listening, and I will catch you with the next one.